Okay, so everybody, thank you so much for joining us on this long weekend. I know it's not easy to hop on calls all the time, especially on long weekends and in summer. So hopefully some of the content that we can bring to you this evening will be beneficial of you donating your time to us. So thank you for your generosity and giving us your time. And we are going to teach you guys all about releasing emotional patterns with essential oils. I have not eaten my supper yet, so Rebecca is going to do the first half of the slides whilst I chew. So take it away, Rebecca.
Okay, awesome. So this is going to be a lot of information, but it's really good information. So as Hannah mentioned, take pictures of these slides if you want to. You're welcome to. So our bodies are designed to heal. And I think when we think of that, we usually just think of our physical body, but it also means emotional and spiritual healing. So that includes emotional trauma, emotional pain, and even unresolved emotions that we may have in our life. So essential oils can help support our body process emotions and trauma, which is amazing. So what is trauma? Trauma is any event or experience that was beyond a person's ability to master at the time. And there's two kinds of trauma. They call it big T trauma and little t. So big T is major traumatic events, where little t is more of an overwhelming event or an experience. And trauma gets stored in our bodies and in our cells, and it actually takes up physical space. Like a picture like an ice cube or a Lego block, it actually takes up physical space in our bodies. And we don't want it there. So we're going to talk about how we can help our bodies release that. So 4 ways essential oils help and affect our bodies is 1, oxygen, 2, small molecular size, 3, high frequency, and 4, divine innate intelligence. And we're going to unpack each one of these. So oxygen, essential oils have really high levels of oxygenating molecules. So we all know oxygen is vital for health when it comes to breathing, but what the oxygen actually does in our bodies is it transports nutrients to our cells and toxins from our cells. So the more oxygenated our body is, the more it's able to do those things efficiently. So when you add essential oils to your life, you're adding oxygen to your body. They help mobilize toxins out of our cells and assist the lymphatic system. So toxins can get stuck when we don't have enough oxygen in our systems. So when you're using essential oils, it's important to drink a lot of water because essential oils help detox the body. Small molecular size. Essential oils are made up of many, many very small molecules, much smaller than our cells. The essential oils don't need to be digested by the body. They're simply absorbed, which is pretty handy. Essential oils, because they're so small, they can actually get inside of our cells. And there are not many things that actually can get inside of our cells. So essential oils help our body do what it was designed to do. So whether you apply it topically, diffuse it, ingest it, you're going to get the benefits from these essential oils. High frequency. So all essential oils have a frequency, and what that means is a reading of an electric, I'll say energy. So I'm going to use the term wellness line, and that just means that any frequency level below that wellness line is where sickness can exist. So if you have a high frequency, you're above the wellness line, sickness can't exist in a high frequency environment. So this is kind of neat. Low frequency oils support our physical body. Mid frequency oils support our emotions, and high frequency oils support our spiritual being or our spirits. So frequency in regards to our bodies, this is how it's defined. The measure of how quickly foundational cells are circulating and regenerating within the body. So we want cells circulating and regenerating at a good, healthy speed. So whether applied, again, topically or diffused or ingested, we're going to get the benefits. So we want our frequency high so that our bodies can actually heal faster. So frequency, the greater movement within our cells, the more free our bodies are to heal. The slower the cells move within our bodies, the greater the chance for tumors, blockages, and disease to develop. So it's important to keep our frequency high and be drinking lots of water at the same time. So divine innate intelligence, I find this part very fascinating. So essential oils, and I'm talking about Young Living, only Young Living essential oils that we're going to talk about tonight, actually have a life force. They each have a frequency reading, which Hannah's going to show us a little bit later on. And the way Young Living has this frequency with their oils is because they're cultivated and distilled in a way that preserves the living energy of their oil, which is really awesome. So essential oils can actually tell which cells are bad and which ones are good in our bodies. They're always working towards balance. They know what to do, and they just go to it in our bodies. They actually sacrifice themselves to absorb toxins, dissolve mucus, eliminate bacteria and viruses. So the life of the oil, the energy in the oil is traded for healing, which is, I think that's pretty cool. So Gary Young was quoted saying, "It doesn't really matter which oil you use, just pick one. They're all beneficial for our health and for our wellness." And when we were talking about the energy and the frequency of these oils, it makes me think of the Young Living mission statement, which says, "We enhance and empower lives around the world by sharing the unique benefit of nature's living energy, essential oils." And that's what our bodies need. We need good, healthy energy in our lives. And when we have a lot of, we have a lot going on around us these days that are stressful and overwhelming, and that's not good. Like, the more oils you can be using and supporting your body at this time is going to help protect your energy and protect your well-being physically, emotionally, and spiritually, which is really key. So natural versus unnatural. So we're going to compare the difference between pharmaceuticals and essential oils and how they respond to in our bodies. So pharmaceuticals actually lie to our bodies. They say, no, you don't have a fever. You don't have a headache. You don't have allergies. Your stomach is fine. Like, it just shuts off our symptoms. That doesn't solve the problem. It just tells us we don't have a problem. Where essential oils actually restore truth to our bodies. They support our body as it heals and releases toxins. They cleanse and detox receptor sites and our cells. So when we have an issue or a challenge with our bodies know how to heal, and using the oils help support our bodies to do that, to heal. Where pharmaceuticals, they don't. They just kind of mask the symptom and sometimes lead to more problems. Where, as we mentioned earlier, the essential oils help restore. They're always working towards balance. So we talked about trauma, big T, little t. This is how it actually gets imprinted onto our cells, which I find is so fascinating. So when trauma is happening, our bodies become stressed. And in response, our sympathetic nervous system produces excessive cortisol, which then produces acid and the transcriptase enzyme. And what that enzyme does is it surrounds the emotion and imprints it into our cells. So it stores that, it locks that trauma in, and that happens at the DNA and the cellular level. So again, like the ice cube or a Lego block, it's that trauma is now surrounded with the enzyme and it's locked into our cells. And one thing that, like, a lot of times the trauma, it can happen at any age or stage of life. And a lot of times the trauma happens when we're younger, before we can really understand what's happening around us, before we can really have a healthy perspective on the situation even. And so our body does that to protect ourselves from the emotions and from the trauma.
Can everybody hear me? Okay, with these headphones, I wasn't sure.
I don't know why this keeps happening. Every time I'm on a Zoom call, a naked child comes through that door and there's just no stopping it. So I apologize if I didn't get to that fast enough. But anyway, okay. Thank you so much, Rebecca, for that plethora of information. So I actually want to build off of what she was talking about and dig in a little bit to how traumas and triggers actually take hold in our bodies. And so I found this actual really cool quote in The Molecules of Emotion by Dr. Candace Pert. And it says, information molecules carry a literal photocopy of the thought formulated in the depths of the memory networks of the brain, creating a link between the mind and body. They're able to make changes at the cellular level, restructuring the cell's makeup on the inside and the DNA on the outside. So like how Rebecca was talking about trauma, which can be big or little, it can just be any like situation that you couldn't cope with, something that was, I don't know, causing an emotional response that you couldn't deal with, those actually put an imprint on your physical DNA at a cellular level when that happens. And so it actually is connecting your mind, your emotions, and your thoughts with your physical body. And when that happens, that's how things like emotional triggers take hold. And so I always like to think about our body's communication as a train track. And, you know, your body's just going along the track, everything's hunky-dory, but trauma takes hold on some area of level in your body and it imprints on that DNA. So what it's doing is it's actually a tree falling on your train track. And so when you are experiencing any particular moment, you're going down that train track and you walk into that trigger and the train can't move forward because there's a tree on the track. And so an example I wanted to use is my friend Catherine. She lives in Nearlandia. They have a farm, they have a dugout. She has 4 little kids. And a couple years ago, her youngest son got away from her. He was 18 months old. She just lost him for like 20 seconds, maybe. And he had landed in the dugout and he's fine. He's absolutely fine. So no worries. But after that happened, she had a trigger. She had something imprinted on her DNA so that she said for months after, she could not give her children baths. She could not go to the lake. She couldn't be near water because as soon as she could hear water splashing, it made her think of that instance with her baby, and she was overcome with emotion because when she experienced that trauma and couldn't cope with it at the time, it imprinted on her DNA. And so we experience that, things like that all the time. And I'm sure that happens to you guys, good memories and bad memories. Like every time I smell like palm olive, I think of my Nana and being in her kitchen, which is like a good one. Every time I smell like Gap perfume, I think of grade 9. And just so sometimes when people have experienced traumatic events, they can experience triggers in the same way. And so when we have emotional triggers, there is 4 ways that we have to come to terms with it before we can experience healing and release from those things. And a lot of times our triggers are autopilot. It's something that we don't even recognize. We don't even notice it's happening. Like somebody could respond to us in a certain way and it hits that trigger and we explode with anger. And we don't know why we're so angry. It's just something that immediate autopilot response that we have because it's imprinted in our DNA to do so. And it's so much more vast than we even think it is, because there's things like generational trauma. Like when you have misprints on your DNA, you can pass that on to your children, to your grandchildren. And even people who have transplants, after they've had their transplant, they can actually attest to having triggers they didn't have before, having memories they didn't have before, because when something happens to us, it imprints on that actual physical area in our body. And to actually encompass all of these 3 things, we need to have an emotional response, we need to identify and feel the feelings we're actually having. We need to increase our spiritual awareness when we actually have like a gut feeling or a gut response. Our body is telling us that that is a trigger moment. We need to recognize it on a mental level, like actually removing ourselves from the situation, be like, oh, this is a trigger. This is a pattern that I'm in. This is a loop that keeps happening. So actually being able to recognize these things, to process your emotions, whether it's talking or therapy or exercise or that sort of thing. But the thing that we don't ever talk about or think about is that it's imprinting on a physical level as well. And so until we actually clear the cellular memory stored in our bodies, we're going to keep being on this loop, and we're going to keep having triggers, because we don't think about it as a physical thing, which now that I'm studying it and learning more, it makes so much sense. But until you actually dig in and learn a lot about essential oils, I didn't know before that my thoughts and my feelings actually imprinted a physical mark on my body. So we're going to talk about how essential oils can actually heal these imprints. I shouldn't say heal. Sorry. They may heal our bodies at a cellular level. So I'm going to get a little sciencey just for a hot sec, to hopefully lay a bit of a foundation of an understanding for you guys to explain how it works. So essential oils are made up of 3 main chemical constituents. The first one is phenols. And what phenols do, I just put a little extra information on here for you guys, but basically what they do is they clean your cells' receptor sites. So if your body's like cells in communication is a train track, and there's a tree that's fallen on the track, which is your trigger. And what the phenols do is they actually clean that away. So they're going to take that tree and set it over on the side and clean those receptor sites so that your cells can communicate more efficiently. Some examples of oils high in phenols are wintergreen, clove, tea tree. Phenols is actually what cats have a problem with. So oils that are high in phenols, you don't want to diffuse in a room with a cat with the door closed. You need to be able to let them go their merry way if they feel irritated. They just can't metabolize them properly. But essential oils that are high in phenols are what actually clean the tree off of your train track. The next one is sesquiterpenes. And what sesquiterpenes do is they actually delete the bad information in your cellular memory. And so it's like the phenols removed the tree off the track. The sesquiterpenes come in and actually delete the tree. And oils that are high in sesquiterpenes are cedarwood, sandalwood, myrrh, frankincense. Wow, I really just lost my train of thought right there. So essential oils are adaptogenic, like Becca said. They can recognize the bad cells and the good cells. They're not going to go and delete stuff on all your cells. They can recognize which ones actually need repair, and the ones that don't, they leave alone. It's like they literally just know where to go. Like Rebecca said, they have divine innate intelligence. It's actually pretty crazy. So phenols move the trees off the track. Sesquiterpenes delete the tree so nothing can actually cause it to come back. And then monoterpenes. And what monoterpenes do is they actually lay and repair the track if there is damage. And so it's like full circle that if you have an imprint on your cell, it's going to get cleaned away, it's going to get deleted, and then the monoterpenes are going to repair that so that your cells can communicate more properly. And circling back to my story about my friend Catherine, after that happened and she experienced months of her husband having to bathe her kids and just always fetching up on that trigger, she used Valor and Peace and Calming every single day to help her just cope with her emotions and work through things. And she said a couple weeks later, they went camping and they were sitting on the beach at the lake. And it didn't even cross her mind until she was sitting there and she was like, I'm at a lake right now. My kids are in the water. Like, where's my trigger? And it's because using those essential oils actually clean and repair our bodies at a cellular level, to the point that she actually was healed from that trigger without even like fully coming to awareness that it was gone, until she had already worked past it. And so it's phenomenal what these essential oils have the capability of doing. Sometimes it'll help us work through our traumas and emotions because they're on a cellular level. We don't even know that it's happening, which is pretty crazy. Oops. So I wanted to talk a little bit about how emotions are stored within the body's cells. Everybody kind of knows this sort of thing. Like if you're worried about something, you can get ulcers. Or I remember before I used to be on like a women's soccer league. Before our soccer games, we would all have to go have the poops because we were all like worried about our game. And so you store different emotions in different areas of your body. And I like to think of it, or Rebecca actually said it to me and it was genius, that in your amygdala, in the limbic lobe of your brain, is like the library catalog. And that's where all the cards and all the like things that are in the library are stored, but the books are stored elsewhere. And so the memories of your emotions are stored in your amygdala, in your brain, but the actual like, what's the word? Like living example of those emotions are stored in different areas of your body, much like how books are on different shelves. So when you experience anger or have triggers or traumas that are anger related, more often than not, those are stored in your liver and your gallbladder. So if people have gallbladder issues, sometimes it's genetic, which could be passed down from an anger from like a family member. But anger is more often than not stored in the liver and gallbladder. Grief weakens your lungs. Worry weakens your stomach. Stress weakens your heart and your brain. Fear weakens your kidneys. And even like stress, whenever people are stressed, some people store it here, some people store it here, some people store it in their elbows. Everybody's bodies are different, but as a general rule, our organs all operate the same. So I wanted to touch on our 5 senses. We have them: taste, touch, sight, sound, smell. Everybody that's gone to kindergarten should probably be familiar with this. All of these senses can cause triggers, can cause trauma. You taste something and it's disgusting, and then every time you go near that food, you're not going to touch it because you've been traumatized by it. People can be traumatized by things they feel or see or smell or hear. All of those things can cause traumas, but the only one that actually has the ability to work through traumas and repair those traumas is the sense of smell, which I think is pretty neat because essential oils, more often than not, we are smelling. So the reason that this happens, people can see my cursor. Hey, if I just wiggle it around. Okay. So when you inhale an essential oil, it goes here up through your nose. And because, like Rebecca said, the molecules are so small, they can pass the blood-brain barrier. They can get right up in there. So they go through your sinuses, through those little hairs in your sinuses that pull it straight into your brain. And it goes right here to your amygdala. Your amygdala is where your long-term memory and your emotions are stored. So it instantly hits that library's catalog. I don't know what it's actually called because I'm not a librarian, but those decks that have all the things in them. And so what sesquiterpenes do, like cedarwood and frankincense and sandalwood, like how Rebecca said, essential oils oxygenate your cells. As soon as sesquiterpenes hit your amygdala, they immediately start oxygenating all the cells in there, which is your long-term memory and your emotions. And that's why people actually are repulsed sometimes by oil smells. As soon as they smell it, they're like, nope, can't, like just can't even, because it's starting to open up those cells that are linked to your emotions, to your traumas. And as like a self-preservation, your body instantly is repulsed by it because it doesn't want you to be stressed. It goes into like fight or flight mode and just instantly shuts it off so that you don't have to deal with those things. So if you hate the smell of an oil, more often than not, it's because you need it for emotional healing. The cells that are in your brain need repair. And so I'm just going to read it. It helps increase the oxygen in the limbic system of the brain, which in turn unlock the DNA and allow emotional baggage to release. So once those cells actually begin to open up, because we know we store them away, we lock things away, we bury them deep, deep in the ground, and it actually starts opening them so that we can deal with them and like find healing and repair in that area. So Rebecca also said that essential oils have different frequencies. And when I first heard this, I thought that it was weird. But then I was reminded of science class when I was in elementary school, and you learned that everything operates at frequencies. Molecules bounce together at different speeds. And every single organ in our body does the same thing. Our heart operates at 320 megahertz. All of our organs vibrate at different frequencies because they all are doing different things. And essential oils all vibrate at different frequencies because the way Young Living distills them, they're technically still alive. That plant essence is still alive, and it's still like those molecules are still vibrating. And so if you can actually be aware of what emotions you're dealing with and what organs those are related to, you can use essential oils to actually pinpoint and effectively be right where you need them to be. Every single essential oil's frequency vibrates wonderfully high, and they're all like amazing and beneficial to our bodies. So if you don't have the right one, it's still going to be helping you stay above the wellness line. But it's kind of neat that you can pair them. So some examples, also, I'm not entirely sure why I messed up my words here, but anger, which is stored in your liver vibrates at the same frequency as the oil purification. Grief, which you store in the lungs, vibrates at the same frequency as bergamot. Your stomach vibrates at the same frequency as peace and calming, which helps combat worry. Your heart is the same as balsam fir, which is stress. Your heart is also, rose is amazing for your heart, black spruce. And when you're experiencing fear, that is stored in your kidneys, and juniper is amazing for your kidneys. And it's funny, like how your emotions show up in different areas of your body. I used to live with fear all the time. Just as a child, I was always fearful, afraid. I used to have bladder infections nonstop. And I literally just rubbed juniper on my kidneys for months, and I haven't had one in a really long time. So it heals like on an emotional level, on a physical level, like it's kind of like a full circle situation. So it's just kind of neat how you can pair different oils for different emotions, for different areas of your body, once you actually have that awareness of all those things. And so I wanted to talk about how to recognize some triggers, emotional patterns, and masks, because we don't often recognize them. Sometimes we snap and it just happens and we don't know why. Sometimes I actually have this is kind of like it's not like a angry example or anything, but I have a pair of my grandfather's pajamas. After he passed away, I just got them from his closet. I put them in a Ziploc bag. They're sealed super tight. And one day our son Ty needed a pair of pajamas. And I was like, oh, I have men's pajamas. Sure, I'll go grab them. Thinking nothing of it. I opened up the bag and instantly my grandparents' house came the smell. And I instantly just burst into tears. I was like, you can't have these pajamas. I'm so sorry. And it created such an emotional response, and I didn't mean for it to happen. I didn't know it was going to happen. And that happens to us all the time because we have these triggers that we don't know that we live with. Anyway, so a lot of times to cope with these, we wear masks. And I wanted to talk a little bit about different masks that we wear to help cope with different traumas and triggers. And you guys can screenshot this or I'll read some of them. But some people wear a self-sufficient mask. And that distorted belief is that people may need me, but I don't need anyone. A fortress mask is protecting you from getting close to people who could hurt you. A take charge mask is you have to be in control so you won't get hurt. A superior mask is if I look better than others, I will be accepted. A victim's mask, everyone is trying to hurt me. A party mask, I have to be the life of the party to be accepted. A pleaser mask, I can't say no because I'll be liked only if I'm needed. A vanity mask, my values come from my outward appearance. The rescuer mask, I'm responsible for other people's feelings, problems, or behaviors. The performance mask is my value is based on my performance and how well I measure up. A happy mask is people only like me when I'm happy and fun to be with. The I can do it mask is asking for help is a sign of weakness. The perfectionist mask is I won't be liked if I make mistakes. The rebel mask is I am part of the crowd when I go against my values. The flirtatious mask is I must be pursued to prove that I have value. And so when we experience these traumatic moments, more often than not, we come out with a distorted belief about that instance. And I've shared this before, but I'm going to do it again just to kind of like drive the point home. In Young Living, it's encouraged to do a lot of personal growth and a lot of soul searching and just to be the best version of your possible self. And so we were doing this exercise where we went back into our childhood to find pivotal traumatic moments that we came out believing a lie or having a distorted belief about it. And so one of the ones that came to my attention was when I was little, my mom spanked me and I laughed at her. And she said, you wait till your dad comes home, then you'll actually get in trouble. And I came out of that believing that women weren't strong, that a man needed to come and be the heavy or be the successful one or be the one who could get things done. And in reality, she probably was just sick of me because I was a very annoying child. And she probably just had enough of me and wanted my dad to deal with me. But I came out of it with the distorted belief that I wasn't strong or women weren't strong. And so more often than not, when we experience these traumas or these moments that imprint in our lives, we come out with a distorted belief about ourselves. So I want you guys to actually just take a look at this and see if any of these masks are familiar to you. If it's something that you wear as a coping mechanism because you're dealing with that distorted belief about yourself. So I'll give you an example. I know that I wear a pleaser mask. I have a really hard time saying no to people because I feel like the only way I'll be liked is if I'm needed by people. And like, that's my own thing, my own issue. I'm just sharing one so everybody feels brave to claim one. But yeah, just take a look at that for a second and see if you have any of those distorted beliefs, because I know I do. And they're simply not true. It's just how we've coped with a traumatic situation. But it's not actually who we're called to be or the amazing person that we were made to be. And so the very thing that we're desperately seeking in our lives as humans is unconditional love and acceptance. But that actually becomes unattainable when we put a mask on. The feeling of emptiness continues because only the mask is receiving love. When people compliment your performance or your mask or whatever we've done to please, which is your mask, but not the person who you really are, deep down, we feel the fear that if they knew the real me, they wouldn't love or accept me. And people complimenting the mask rather than us personally reinforces the lie that we believe. And so if we can have, like how it had that spiritual, mental, emotional, physical, if we can actually recognize the moments we're wearing a mask, that's huge, amazing breakthrough, because we don't often see it. It's autopilot. It happens as a triggered response. It's a coping mechanism that we have. And so if we can have that mental clarity to find those moments where we put masks on, to feel that check in our spirit, to actually, oh, somebody's banging at the door, sorry, to actually recognize that, then we can use essential oils to heal those misprints on our DNA, to work at our bodies on a cellular level, to actually work towards taking those masks off, coping with our emotions and our situations, because essential oils are made to support us in that area. We can dig into which essential oils are great for coping with which emotions, but on this class, I really wanted to talk about how it affects our bodies on a cellular level, because it's not something we often understand. I'll just say that I always use Balsam Fir and Vetiver if I'm experiencing a moment of anxiety or panic. I use Stress Away just to calm down all the time. I use Tangerine if I need to gather my thoughts because I feel too squirrely. And so it's not just any specific oil. Like you can grab any one and they will help. But I just wanted to give you some examples. I feel kind of badly that I'm not actually just listing oils for you guys. But when you have these recognizing moments, you can actually grab essential oils, inhale them so that they get into that library catalog of your brain, and then they begin enacting change because those communications are like actually working properly so that you can work to repair those misprints on your DNA. So what I actually wanted to do, if you guys have them, there's an actual blend. It's lavender, Stress Away, and frankincense. And the three of these combined together are ridiculously high in phenols, monoterpenes, and sesquiterpenes. And so they're actually called the Aroma Freedom Blend. These three oils mixed together are just like a powerhouse for releasing, unlocking memories, and repairing that DNA. And so I thought we would do it. So the steps to emotional freedom and repairing those emotional patterns that we have is identifying what we're doing or how we're feeling. So noticing those triggers, noticing when we're in those moments where we're putting our masks on, and then actually try and reflect back to when that distorted belief began. Like me thinking back to that moment when I got spanked. I actually thought it would be hard to think of moments, but when you actually sit and reflect, they actually come to you. I wrote out like a bunch. So think of a memory when you felt that way, and then you use this memory release blend and just sit with it. Just actually think about those moments, take some deep breaths. One thing that's amazing about essential oils is you have to inhale them. And I love that because when you actually take the time to slowly breathe, your primal body knows that it can relax. Like the primal way, was survival and fight or flight. And when you were calm and breathing, you weren't in survival mode. You were actually able to relax. And so when you take deep breaths, you're giving your body permission to relax. Whenever I have anxiety or stress, I shallow breathe, which causes more stress and more anxiety. And so inhaling essential oils actually makes you pause for a hot sec and take some deep breaths. And so I wanted to show you guys the way that I like to do it. So I would take, I don't know if this is going to come out. I might need to pop the dropper top off. I will. I pour them into the palm of my hand, just a couple drops of each. And you can do this with whatever oils you have. It doesn't have to be this specific blend. This one is just super beneficial for actual quick time emotional release. So you just pour them in the palm of your hand. And then if you stir them a little bit, just to help stir those cells up and oxygenate it a bit more, rub your hands together and then you cup it over your face like this and just take some deep, slow, intentional breaths. And if you can actually, I know it's not fun to think about traumatic moments or to even unpack those bags, but if you can do it while inhaling these oils, it actually will begin to repair your cells and repair your DNA and wash those actual triggers and traumas away. So it really, like I said, it doesn't matter which oils you have. Use whatever you have. There are a lot of resources like the Essential Oil Desk Reference that's amazing for explaining which oils are like pairing with which emotions. It's an app that you can have on your phone. The book that oh my gosh, it's underneath of a laptop. Hang on. The book that I love to reference is this one, Releasing Emotional Patterns with Essential Oils. Like there's lots of different ways that you can do this research, figure out which oils you need to work through certain things. We just really wanted to explain how emotions are stored in your body, because people don't think of it as a physical storing, and how essential oils can actually bring about repair and refresh to those areas of your body. So I want you guys to screenshot this or write it down or whatever, because I'd like you guys to have some time with some oils, whether it's today or tomorrow, whenever you have a moment, and to actually sit, breathe with your oils, work through whatever emotions come to your mind. Even when you smell an oil, it might actually just bring a certain memory to you. So to inhale it and work through that. And it just says, during this class, I learned whatever you learned. You grew in the area of wherever you feel like you grew. Write down how you feel, what is going to change in your life because of however these oils are making you feel. You know that you can blank because blank. Like I know that I can be strong because I was always strong. I just had a distorted belief for a second that I wasn't. I no longer blank because blank, and I am ready to whatever that is. Because when we can release ourselves from those distorted beliefs and those triggers that are stored in our bodies, that's when we can walk in who we are made to truly be. That's when we can let go of those limiting beliefs. That's when we can live our best lives. And essential oils are such an amazing tool to help us do that, because they're not only living energy, but they repair our bodies and like help us find healing and goodness. And yeah, that's why we love them and why we talk about them all the time. And I wanted to share that with you guys. Anyway, that's all I have on slideshows. If Rebecca could stop recording this, and then I would love it if we could just chat for a little bit. If